The old stone church stood on the hilltop like a watchman of time, its bell tolling every Sunday morning, calling the faithful to worship. Families dressed in their best made the climb, voices carrying greetings, children tugging at parents' hands, hymnals tucked under arms. And at the church door, always, sat a man no one quite understood. He was known only as Ben. His jacket was worn, its elbows patched with different shades of cloth, his cap pulled low even when the sun was kind. His boots looked tired but sturdy, laces replaced by bits of cord. By his knee rested a paper cup, sometimes holding a few coins, sometimes empty. He never rattled it, never begged aloud. He simply sat, and when someone offered a coin, he bowed his head once in silent gratitude. Most hurried past. Some dropped change automatically, already thinking of lunch or errands. Children, though, slowed down. They whispered questions. Why is he here? Why doesn't he come inside? Parents shushed them, guiding them quickly to the pews. But the children noticed things adults forgot to see. They saw how Ben tilted his face into the sunlight as though warming himself with more than heat. They saw how he whispered when rain touched his skin, as if thanking the drops themselves. They saw how his eyes, tired, lined, still held sparks of gentleness. Adults noticed something else. He wasn't slouched like a man defeated. His posture was quiet but alert, his gaze steady. And sometimes he seemed to know exactly who needed a word. "Good morning," he would murmur to the widow whose husband had died last spring. "You've got a strong stride," he'd tell the teenager who carried too much anger. To the weary pastor, he would simply nod, and somehow that nod meant more than a sermon. Inside the church, people sang of mercy. Outside, at the door, mercy sat in silence. One cold Sunday in November, the congregation held a clothing drive. Piles of coats and sweaters filled the vestibule. Claire, who organized it, was efficient and kind. She had a 10-year-old son named Evan and a planner full of lists. But as she sorted through the donations, she frowned. Nothing matched the sizes of the families she knew needed them most. Too small, too thin, too impractical for the harsh winter ahead. Stepping out for air, she saw Ben on the steps. She hesitated, then sat beside him. "We have coats," she said, "but none that fit the families who need them." Ben tilted his head. "What sizes?" she told him. He nodded as though making a list. "Give me until evening," he said. She blinked. "You? But how?" "Sometimes," he said with a faint smile, "people just need someone to connect the right things." That night, when Claire checked the vestibule, she stopped in her tracks. There on the table sat 4 heavy coats, boots, scarves, and gloves, all exactly the sizes she had mentioned. Folded neatly on top was a note. "With love. B. The mystery." Deepened. From then on, small miracles appeared. Bags of groceries in the pantry cupboard, a box of math workbooks just when a struggling student needed them. Dog food left quietly at the trailer of an elderly widow with her old mutt. Each gift came with the same note. "With love. B." Yet every Sunday, Ben sat at the door with his cup as though he had nothing. People whispered. Some accused him of manipulation. Others claimed coincidence. But those who watched closely saw something different. They saw him late at night at the laundromat, folding clothes that weren't his. They saw him in the community garden, digging carefully, leaving bundles of vegetables on porches before dawn. They saw him at the used bookstore, trading battered novels for children's readers. It was Claire who confronted him one evening. She found him tucking books into his worn satchel. "You're the one leaving the notes," she said. He didn't deny it. "Sometimes it's easier to write than explain." "Why sit outside the church if you're the one helping it so much?" she asked. He studied her quietly. "Because some people give more freely to a beggar than to a church fund. And sometimes," he added, People listen better at a doorway than in a pew. Her laugh surprised both of them. Who are you, Ben? His eyes softened. Someone who lost everything. Someone trying to give back before the world forgets him entirely. That winter was brutal. Snow buried cars, ice laced every sidewalk, the river slowed to a crawl. The church opened its basement as a warming center. Ben came early, carrying an old tool bag. He bled radiators, sealed drafts with tape, and tucked extra quilts under the cots of those who shivered the most. When the kitchen freezer failed one night, threatening to ruin food, meant for dozens, panic spread. Ben knelt calmly, propped the door, angled a fan, rotated the food. In 20 minutes, he had stabilized what would have been a disaster. "Where did you learn that?" Claire asked. "Restaurants," he said simply. "I once kept a diner running when the owner lost hope." Freezers are easy. People are harder, but not everyone saw him with gratitude. The mayor's office issued an ordinance against loitering at places of worship. Complaints, they said. Optics. "It's not personal," the aide assured. Ben only smiled. "It's rarely personal to those writing the memos." The next Sunday, he wasn't at the church door. Worship felt hollow, like a song missing its melody. Claire found him later at the park, cupped by his knee. "You moved," she said. "I was moved," he answered. She pressed. "Who are you really?" And at last his story came. His name was Benjamin Cole, once a chef, once a husband, once a father to a daughter named Lily. He lost her to leukemia. The illness drained their savings, their marriage, and finally, his will to keep a roof over his head. "Church steps are for men who don't trust inside anymore," he said softly, "but can't bear to be far from mercy." Claire's hand covered his. "Thank you," she whispered. "No," he said. "Thank you for asking." Spring brought change. A fire nearly broke out at the town fair when a friar flared. Ben acted swiftly, closing valves, smothering flames. He saved lives before panic could spread. Some called it luck, others saw courage. Claire couldn't stay silent. Taking the microphone on the fair's stage, she told the town the truth. About the coats, the groceries, the notes, about the man they had feared or ignored. "We call him a beggar," she said, "but he has been our neighbor, our guardian, our friend." The crowd listened. Some wept, some clapped, and slowly, fear lost its grip. Petitions spread, the ordinance was overturned, and on the first Sunday of June, Ben returned to the church steps, not with a cup, but with empty hands folded. This time, people didn't rush past. They stopped. They shook his hand. They called him by name. Years later, when renovations replaced the old stone steps, the church saved one piece of the original lintel. They set it into the garden wall with a small plaque, "For the one who watched the door and taught us how to open it." And if you pass that garden on an early winter morning, some say you can still see a knit cap bent over the flowers, whispering thanks to the sunlight. We measure wealth by money, but true riches are in mercy. Benjamin lost everything the world counts, but by giving what little he had, he restored dignity not only to himself, but to a whole town. Sometimes the beggar at the door is the one holding the keys to our hearts. If this story touched you, if it reminded you to look twice at those the world overlooks, don't let it end here. Follow our channel for more heartfelt, powerful stories that inspire compassion, courage, and hope. Because sometimes the life you change is your own.